Yeah, it's not looking good. I'm going to get wet. Oh well, it's only water. So, the ZZR, ever since I had the last of the engine problems fixed, that must be going on 3 years now. I mean, I had a lot of problems before, but finally got everything fixed, most things replaced. It's been running great. The only two problems I've had with it were recently the fuel, because this, the fuel with all the additives is a pain. And the other one was a fuse. Main fuse blew for no apparent reason. I was just sat ticking over, the main fuse blew. Obviously, when a main fuse blows, you tend to think, okay, well, what's caused it? Well, so I replaced the main fuse. And that was months and months and months and months and months ago, and it's been fine ever since. Now, if it's fine, then the chances of finding any issue, and we checked the wiring as much as we could, but everything looked fine. So most of the spade fuses made here are sourced from China, and the fuse had been in for, 4 years, I suppose. So maybe it was just a poor quality Chinese fuse, I don't know. But we never found a problem. We looked extensively for one. We never found anything. Just the fuse blew. Makes you a little nervous when you're riding it initially, because you're thinking, what if it goes again? But it hasn't. Mind you, I do have some spare fuses under my backside, a seat, just in case. Makes you wonder why manufacturers, because it's a bit of a pain getting to the fuse, to be honest. It makes you wonder why manufacturers just don't have complete access. Like on a car, where the main fuse is you just lift up the bonnet, and generally the main fuse is there, easy to get to. Don't even have to get your hands dirty. Why is it with bikes they tend to stick the main fuse somewhere where you've got to take parts off, and one of the great why don't they's. Okay, let's see if I can stretch its legs a bit. This bit here isn't a great surface. It's okay when it's really wet, but when it's like this, it can be a bit slippy. You've got to be careful. On the ZX14 you have traction control, you have all that. Of course, with the 11 you don't. Oh, she sounds good. Ay, ay, ay. Rain is great. Okay, let's see. Hopefully not too much traffic. Well, not great actually. We're supposed to be on lockdown, but there have been some easing of restrictions, and traffic has massively increased. Okay, we have a bike up front. Can't see what it is at the moment. She's feeling really sweet. I recently gave the brakes service, and everything feels so tight on it now. Everything's good. Mind you, I suspect this is probably one of the most serviced ZZRs there are. God, I love this bike. Little bit of wheel spin. The old girl still got it. Okay, well, the road is dry here. Good. At the moment, the bike is fitted with Pirelli Angel GT, and I gotta say, I don't like them. She feels very skittish over white lines, changes in road surface. But when I had to replace the tyres, I didn't have any choice. It's not like the rest, where you can just get other tyres to suit. You're limited in your choice. But, I think I now found a supplier where I'll be able to get a wider range of tyres. So once this lockdown is finished, I'll get some different tyres. I'd like to get Bridgestones. I don't know, we'll see. So checking everything's looking good. Temperature's good, she's responding perfectly, throttle response is brilliant. The ZZR is good, and you can't beat that sound, I tell you. The ZX14 is an amazing machine, don't get me wrong, but like all in fuel injected, I don't know. The engine sound just seems to be a little soulless. And, you know, Kawasaki was famous for fine-tuning the induction sound to give you that, you know, that experience, that wonderful feeling of and of course the exhausts aren't, they're standard. I have standard pipes on. I think they look great. But also they weren't full of catalytic converters and stuff, so the actual sound was really, really nice. As you can hear. Now this here is a new lane. They've widened it by taking out the central area. They've created this new lane. But what's funny is people don't like to use it. I mean, the guy in front is, but basically people just don't like to use the new lane. Okay, so, you know, wind her up to, not too fast, but just over 100 mile an hour. You know, there's so much more if you want it. But this new lane, it's pretty bumpy actually, so. The other thing I've noticed is that when you're doing, say, 100 or 120 miles an hour on the ZX14, it's impressive and such, but you feel, how can I put it, separated from the experience. If it wasn't for the wind, you wouldn't really know. With the ZZR, which in itself is a 180 mile an hour motorcycle, you're actually part of the whole thing. You feel it. Okay, so that trip is only about 12 kilometers, but you know, we could be stuck with heavy rain and wind for a couple of days now, so I just wanted to run the bike out. Oh fuck. Went down the wrong lane, went into the cache above, rather than the sensor which I have. Really saves digging around in your pocket for money and things. Okay, oh, back in the heavy traffic. Okay, so really happy with that. Not happy at the length of the ride, but really happy to how 1100 is performing and feeling and sounding and looking. You know, this is a D1 94. It was first sold in 95. And it's a rarity in the Philippines. It has a very rare green number plate because back in the 90s, the bike manufacturers hardly imported any vehicles whatsoever. Not big bikes, sorry. So Kawasaki brought this one in to put in their main branch here. In fact, it was probably the only branch here at the time. And they had it on display for 18 months or so. So it was just there to attract customers. And then a doctor bought it. He was the first registered owner. And then basically he hardly seemed to use it. And then he sold it on after about 10 years or more. He sold it to a guy who likes to have lots of bikes. But again, the bike just sat. Because he had so many bikes, he very rarely used them. And the bike basically sat for years and years and years, in a garage, and I mean, it was well looked after, but it just didn't do any mileage. So when I advertised for a ZZR11, I wanted one, having owned them previously through the 90s. I knew there were one or two here. I wanted a D, not a C. A C is a great bike, but I just prefer the D personally. So I advertised in all the main publications here for a D, and the gentleman's son contacted me to say that his father was looking to sell it. I went to see the bike, and if you have a look on my website, it looked beautiful. But of course, he had only done 20,000 kilometers in basically 20-something years. And most of that time it had just been sat. So of course, once I got it, bikes don't like sitting, especially not for years and years. I had all sorts of problems. Everything was rotten. Which led to overheating, blah 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 blah. And I spent a vast amount of money replacing so many items. If you look at my website, there's a list of items that I've replaced on this machine. It's shocking. And of course, everything has to be ordered from either Kawasaki UK, or I order a lot of parts straight from Japan as well. So, although the bike is 1994, many parts of it are pretty new. And I only ever use genuine Kawasaki parts. I never use anything else. And, well, overall it's, as I said at the beginning, it's been running now for 3 years or so perfectly, but for the first 2.5 years it was a constant battle. I broke down numerous times and had to push this monster in Philippine heat in the middle of the day, many kilometers, nearly killed me. But now I have a cupboard with spares in, which would do a Kawasaki dealership proud. I mean, every time I come across something that's ZZR11, particularly here because there's only a handful of them, and if I see any parts, I buy them, whether I need them or not, just to build up a store of parts. And everything I take off, I also keep. So if I can't get it later, I can attempt to have it sort of reconditioned. I'm getting on in years now, so both the ZX14 and this one I will continue to keep until such time as I stop riding, whenever that may be. Hopefully not for many years to come, and I may add to the two bikes. There's one more I want to really get, which is the ZX12R. Now, like the ZZR here in the Philippines, there's only a handful in the whole country, and they only come up for sale once every 4 or 5 years. So I'm waiting. If I can get a ZX12R, then my stable is complete. For me. Everyone's different, of course. Okay, so back to home. Nice lady security guard. So, a short ride, far from perfect conditions, but I really enjoyed it. Every time I get on this thing, I just love it. I suppose when you've been riding a certain type of bike since the 90s, it almost becomes part of you. I hope I develop that same kind of relationship with the ZX14R. See, I have to put the wood under the bike because the concentric adjusters are rotated to give sharper handling, and of course when you do that and you put the bike on the center stand, it's not stable. Okay.